for 5 minutes of questioning.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure where to start. Wait, leave the chart there, please. And I appreciate my friend Mr. Bishop from North Carolina. I appreciate the passion and the intellect he brings to these sorts of debates and discussions. I did want to say this, though. I represent a district in Maryland, and Ms. Moran, you and I saw each other last week, and I'll come back to you in a moment, but a lot of my immigrants are from El Salvador, and I mean thousands of them. Our population has grown very dramatically in Prince George's County with El Salvadoran immigrants. And I want to challenge the suggestion that there are more criminal elements within the El Salvador immigrant community than the people who are already here in the United States. That's been the exact opposite of my experience in Prince George's County. And I was the state's attorney there for 8 years. I mean, I prosecuted these cases. And Ms. Moran, you may recall, I talked about a RICO case I did jointly with Rod Rosenstein, who was a Republican U.S. attorney. In fact, he ended up being Donald Trump's deputy, and then he was the acting attorney general in the Department of Justice. And, you know, there's an issue there for sure of crime that's committed. But I don't think it's fair to say that the people who are coming, by and large, are here to commit crimes. And I think I recall Chip Roy saying at one of the Judiciary Committee hearings that his sense of it was pretty much the same. People are coming here to work. They're not coming for asylum reasons necessarily, but they're coming here to work and be part of the American dream and live that experience. So thank you for the chart. I appreciate it. But I did want to say this, too. The lower parts of the numbers there, and I don't know what the colors mean or that sort of deal, but I was state's attorney during the previous stretch, so not during the Biden-Harris administration, but during the previous period. And we had to address criminal prosecutions during those times, too. And Ms. Moran, you may recall, and this committee knows because I've read Justice Kavanaugh's opinion over and over when we do these hearings, and that's that this system's been broken down for the past 5 presidential administrations and for over 30 years. In fact, these issues predate the existence of this committee. But I did want to say this, and my colleague from North Carolina has left at this point, but he did raise the issue of the Langford bill, and I don't think it was a cure-all by any stretch. And I think at the last hearing when we discussed this, I want to say it was Chairman Jordan that raised H.R. 2. The problem with both of those bills is that they're not going anywhere. And I think we have a recognition, in fact, your testimony of everybody on the panel is that there's a problem with immigration that we need to address. The problem that I'm having with this hearing and the last hearing is that we're not addressing through legislation any of those concerns. Now, Ms. Moran, you may recall last week I said that legislative hearing wasn't a legislative hearing because there was no legislation connected to it that was going to move and address the problem. I'll say the same thing here, and I want to just make this point that I didn't know last week. The Judiciary Committee is going to have a markup tomorrow on legislation that we want to move to the floor to address current problems. None of those bills are going to deal with this particular issue. I think this committee is going to have a markup in the near future as well, and I think the same is going to be true there. If you don't like the Langford bill, you still have the power to bring it up and amend it, and you can change it. And as we saw with H.R. 2 when that came through, and H.R. 2 was the Republican bill, and the fact that it's number 2 shows that it's one of the highest priorities for the House Republicans. They marked it up. They didn't accept any of the amendments that we offered here in the committee, even though I think, a lot of them would have made the bill actually better and helped to address the problem. But I do want to end with this. As I said last week, I think that there are challenges and issues on both sides' positions. I think the way to address the issue is to find a compromise in the middle that actually moves legislation through For example, at the table you're sitting at, a number of the witnesses said we need more Border Patrol agents, we need more judges, we need more officials to process these things. We're not moving those things through. And Ms. Moore, and I want to again thank you for being the voice that you're being. I'd like to actually meet with you and discuss some of these issues. I think, as I said last week, you've got a moral authority based on what you've suffered through, and I know you would change it in a second to get your daughter back. But I'd like to see us get something done, and we're not doing it with these kind of stage performances like this. But you're in a position, unfortunately, where you have the voice that can help move things forward. And I appreciate the work that you've done and will continue to do. And I want to thank you for being here again today. And Mr. Chairman, I apologize for running over, but I want to thank the panel as well. And I thank the committee as well for raising this issue and continuing to look at it. But I hope we'll be able to find a way to address it with legislation that's actually going to get passed and do something. And with that, I yield back.